UFC 311 happens exactly 1 week from today, and today is actually the UFC Vegas 101 card, but that card is so garbage, I'd rather just skip right to UFC 311. So yes, I'm a savage. I'm uploading predictions on the day that we return the fights because the card today is an absolute disgrace. 311 is the real start of the UFC for 2025. Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsaryukan 2. I'm going to be giving a breakdown to some degree and a prediction for every single fight on the card, all the way from the earliest prelim to the main event. So let's get right into it, starting off with the early prelim of Jiri Prochazka versus Clayton Carpenter. Now, Jiri is 16-2, and Clayton Carpenter is undefeated. When you look at these guys' styles, Clayton Carpenter is just way levels behind on the feet. That's just what it is. He's not very great on the feet. Obviously, he has really good wrestling and decent submissions, but Jiri, I think, has better striking and better grappling overall. Clayton Carpenter, you can give the wrestling advantage maybe. Jiri did drop a decision to, who was it, Tim Elliott a couple fights ago maybe, but it doesn't matter, man. Even at 33 years old, I still think Jiri Prochazka, you know, the Dagestani himself, is going to beat Clayton Carpenter, and I think he's going to win by a decision. I don't know if he can finish Clayton Carpenter. Clayton has solid wrestling and solid grappling, so Jiri, I don't think we'll be able to get a submission on him, but I think he'll just outwork him on the feet for 3 rounds en route to a 30-27 decision. That's my prediction for this fight to open the card. Let's get on to the next fight, which is Ricky Turcios versus Bernardo Sapage. Now, Bernardo is the guy that got flying kneed by Vinicius Oliveira, but I don't think that's enough to write him off. We've seen Ricky Turcios. This guy is terrible. I don't think I've ever been impressed by a single Ricky Turcios fight. He got submitted by Raul Rosas Jr., which, fair enough, isn't the worst thing in the world. But I just don't rate Ricky Turcios very high. He's like the Eric Anders of the lower weight classes, you know? He's just not good anywhere. He's just kind of there. And I feel like Bernardo Sapage got thrown a tough opponent in Vinicius Oliveira, and he's good. I think he's still good despite losing, and I think he can smoke a guy like Ricky Turcios, who's, let's be honest, like I said, he just isn't good. I don't see where he's good anywhere. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen an impressive Ricky Turcios fight, because I sure in the heck haven't. And, I mean, who really cares about this fight? Let's be honest. These guys are both going to end up being journeymen throughout their career. But picking a winner, I would have to go with Ricky Turcios. No, I'm kidding. Bernardo Sapage. And I'm going to say him by, I'll say a decision, 30-27. He'll win every single round, but he won't be able to finish him. And yeah, that's my prediction for this fight. Let's get on to the next fight where we have Rena Nakamura versus Gafarov. Now, first of all, look how goofy this dude on the right looks. This dude looks like a cartoon. What am I looking at? But no, this guy on the right is an absolute can. He's like 1-2 in his last 3 from Tajikistan. He's not good. This is literally just a layup for Rena Nakamura. I think he's just going to grapple, hump him for 3 rounds and win a 30-27. I mean, that's the only way I see this fight going. Nakamura, not much of a finisher. He's more of a decision fighter. So I think this fight's 100% gone to the cards. And I don't know much about Gafarov outside of the fact that he's a 1-2, 1-3 in the UFC. Not very good when you're losing the bottom feeder guys like that. And yeah, man, he has 6 losses. So this guy is accustomed to losing, and he's going to be accustomed to taking another fat L by Rena Nakamura. I think the UFC is trying to push these Japanese stars up. I mean, we have 3 Japanese stars in the lower weight classes in, who is it, Kai Asakura, Tatsuro Taira, Rena Nakamura. Like, there's a lot of these guys from Japan coming up. Japan on the rise. People forget, man, Japanese MMA is coming back. But, yeah, man, I mean, this is just a tailor-made matchup for Rena Nakamura to absolutely smoke Gafarov, who I've never even heard of, I'm going to be honest. Is that my inner casual? Maybe. But I 100% am going to have to go with Rena Nakamura by decision, improving his record to 10-0. Let's get on to the next fight, which is Rosa versus Aylin Perez. Now, Aylin Perez, whatever her name is, she is the girl who is notorious for doing the twerk the last time she won. She did a twerk on her opponent, which, you know, that's a first in UFC history. I don't know if anyone's ever twerked on their opponent after beating them. But when I look at this matchup, I just think Rosa is not very good. I'm not impressed with her. She has terrible striking, but so does Aylin Perez. But I think in the grappling, Aylin Perez could secure a dominant position and maybe secure a submission, but I don't see it happening. It's a WMMA fight at the end of the day, so I do think it will go to the cards. And I think I'll pick Aylin Perez to win by a 29-28 decision. Just because, like I said, Rosa, I mean, we're not too impressed with her these days. It is the bantamweight women's division, so we are grasping at straws for skill levels. I mean, this might be the most unskilled division in the entire UFC, women's bantamweight. You know your division is cooked whenever Holly Holm is in the top 10. I don't know what else is there to say about that. But, yeah, absolutely. I got Aylin Perez winning by way of twerking in the middle of the octagon and securing a 30-27 decision over the absolute monster and killer that is Rosa. Like, this is going to be one of the most insane action-packed fights of the entire year, guys. Be on the lookout for this fight. But yeah, Perez by decision. Let's get on to the next fight on the card, which is going to be Grant Dawson versus Carlos Diego Ferreira. Now, people forget, man, Carlos Diego Ferreira is 40 years old. I know a lot of people look at him and it's like, Diego Ferreira, guys, he's a prospect. But nah, guys, he's not a prospect. This guy's been in the UFC for 10 years. He's old. He's 40, but the dude is still kicking, man. He's still winning fights. This is the guy that beat up Mateusz Rambeski. This is the guy that KO'd Michael Johnson out cold. This is also the guy that Dustin Poirier beat up in one of his first lightweight fights when he first joined lightweight in the UFC. It's interesting because Grant Dawson has been chinned before by Bobby Green. He got chinned by Bobby Green, kind of got exposed in the striking, but then he's come back to win a couple grappling dominant decisions. And if you look at Carlos Diego Ferreira, he's a really good scrambler on the ground. And I think he has underrated power on the feet because, I mean, if you can put out Michael Johnson cold, I know Michael Johnson don't have the best chin, but still, putting him out cold like that is impressive. And I'm going to predict Carlos Diego Ferreira to KO Grant Dawson on the feet. That's what I think. I just think Grant Dawson is not the best striker. And what happens whenever he fights a guy like Diego Ferreira, who maybe can get taken down, but he can whip up some scrambled eggs and get it back up to the feet, I think. And when he does that, anytime it's on the feet, Grant Dawson is going to be at risk of being KO'd, in my opinion, because he's just such a rookie on the feet. I don't look at Grant Dawson and rate anything he really does on the feet. His bread and butter is the grappling, and I think Diego Ferreira is good enough in the grappling to make it competitive, and if he does get taken down, to get back to his feet or even threaten submissions. And when it's on the feet, like I said, I favor Diego Ferreira, so I am going to pick him by KO. My only worry is that Father Time is undefeated, and Carlos is 40 years old, which is crazy to think because, I don't know, I thought he was like 35, but this guy's actually 40 years old. So the strength is real in this matchup, but I don't know, man. Grant Dawson is good, but his grappling is like a 9 out of 10, and his striking is like a 3 out of 10. So it's really hard to pick Grant Dawson when he's such a one-trick pony, in my opinion. This is not a guy that's going to be dominating guys on the feet. He's going to take you down. He's going to take you back and lock up a body triangle. And he's probably either going to secure the round or get a rear naked choke. And I just don't see him doing that against Carlos Diego Ferreira. So with that being said, Diego Ferreira by second round KO, I'm going to say. Let's get on to the next fight. That was a whole bunch of yapping. Zachary Reese versus Cedric Dumas. Now, Cedric Dumas, pound for pound, the most hood fighter in the UFC. I'm confirming it right here. I mean, this guy literally looks like a GTA character. Look at him on the screen. And yeah, man, he's not impressive. You know, for a guy straight out of the Compton hoods, you would think this guy would be coming for your dome. But nah, this guy's 100% a decision merchant. And it's weird. And I think Zachary Reese is powerful with every single thing he does. And yeah, man, I think he's going to go in there and he's going to KO Cedric Dumas because there's not much worry about Dumas. Like, what is he going to do? He's not really powerful. He's not really impressive on the ground. I mean, he's okay, but I don't rate Dumas. And Zachary Reese, I forgot who he lost to, but it wasn't the best look. But I think this guy is still good. I think he has a bright future. And I just don't look at a guy like Cedric Dumas and think, man, this guy's threatening, man. Got to watch out for Cedric Dumas, man. He might KO you in one punch. No, Zachary Reese, if anybody's getting a one-punch KO, is going to be him. Funny enough, I went to a school with a guy named Zachary. So imagine if this is him. People forget, man. This guy's in the UFC now. Either way, what's up with the weight discrepancy? If you look at their weights, 196 for Zach Reese and 185 for Cedric Dumas. Yeah, I think Zach Reese is going to put Cedric Dumas out cold in the first round, make an absolute statement saying, look, I'm one of the most powerful middleweights in the world. Give me my belt. I'm coming, Dricus. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, like I said, I don't really rate Dumas. He's not really overly skilled in any area. So I think Zachary Reese is just going to secure a knockout. He's just a powerful guy all around. Let's get on to the next fight on the card, which is Gelton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. Now, this is a tricky one, right? Because these guys are both finishers in terms of the grappling. And the polar bear, Sergey Spivak, he's got some losses, right? But he's only lost to the absolute best. Who's he lost to? He's lost to who's he lost to? Tom Aspinall finished him, and I forget who else he lost to. Cyril Gane, I believe. Yeah, Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall finished him, and he had one other loss in the UFC. Whereas Jailton Almeida's only loss in the heavyweight division is against Curtis Blades. Just being silly, holding on to a single leg, and Curtis Blades just pounding him out on the side of his head. I don't think he's going to make that mistake again, but these guys are both, don't get it twisted, these guys are both bona fide savages when it comes to finishes on the ground. So this is a tough pick. It's like, who do you go with? The lighter man skill in Jailton Almeida, who's a fast heavyweight. He's a smaller heavyweight, but he's fast. Or the polar bear, who's a bigger and maybe more powerful heavyweight. This is such an interesting matchup because they're both grapplers at heavyweight, which you don't see too often. Spivak can strike, but he's not the best striker because every time he has struck on the feet, he's been pieced up by guys like Aspinall and by Gane, which isn't bad to say. Those are the two of the best strikers in the heavyweight division. But Jailton Almeida, I would argue, is the quicker grappler. He's the faster. He's more slicker with submissions, where Sergey Spivak kind of just powers through you and he like bullies you into a submission, you know? And yeah, man, I think Sergey Spivak submitted Derek Lewis, which people forget, man. Spivak submitted Lewis when Almeida couldn't sit on top of him for 25 minutes. But I'm not going to base this fight off of who beat Derek Lewis better. That's a silly argument. I am going to pick Jailton Almeida by this submission, but I'm interested to see, has anyone ever seen Jailton Almeida striking? Like, I don't know if I'm just a casual, but I cannot remember a single fight where I saw Jailton Almeida strike. And this guy's been in the UFC for a minute. It's so weird. This guy immediately shoots a takedown, and he's so good. He's like the Habib of light heavyweight. He's the Habib of heavyweight, bro. Takes you down and either beats you up on the ground or secures a submission. So we don't really get to see this guy striking. Who knows if it's the worst in the division, or this guy could literally be a heavyweight wonder boy. We'll never know. But yeah, man, these guys are both pretty decent heavyweights. I think Jailton Almeida is just a cut above Sergey Spivak. I think he's the faster grappler, the more technical grappler, and yeah, I think if he can get Sergey Spivak down, he can secure a submission, which would be a pretty good win considering how good Spivak is in the grappling in his own regard. He has a bunch of submission wins in the UFC. So I'm going to take Jailton Almeida by a second round submission over Sergey Spivak. Let's get on to the next fight, which is Peyton Talbot versus Raoni Barcelos. First off, let me go on a little rant about Peyton Talbot. This guy got, a 19-second KO in his last fight, and he's, fighting nearly a year later? What is up with these up-and-comers complaining about fighter pay, complaining about money, but fighting once a year? I'm sick of it. These guys need to get in the octagon. Bro, you had a 20-second fight, and you're out for nearly a year. What are we doing, Peyton Talbot? You could be smoking these guys. Dude literally could be top 10 already. I don't know if he's that good, but we're going to find out Saturday night, brother, so tune in. Either way, let's be real. This is a tailor-made matchup for Peyton Talbot to go in there and get a KO. I mean, if no offense, but if Umar can KO Raoni Barcelos, I think Peyton Talbot has the power to do it. Because I think this guy has a little bit cleaner hands than Umar, but Umar arguably has better kicks. But we don't know if Peyton Talbot's wrestling is all that great. We know that Raoni Barcelos just is an absolute crafty vet at bantamweight. He's the craftiest of crafty vets, as Lucas Tracy would say. But there's a reason that Peyton Talbot's a negative 11 to 1 favorite, negative 1100. And yeah, man, I think he's going to do just that. I think he's going to go in there and he's going to TKO or KO Raoni Barcelos in the second round. And it's going to be another easy win for Peyton Talbot. Let's get this guy a step up in competition. I know Raoni Barcelos is decent, but he's also, 37, 38 years old. And he had a KO loss recently to Umar. I know he bounced back since then. But I just don't see a 37-year-old, 38-year-old man taking out such a fast and powerful striker like Peyton Talbot in the lower weight classes. Listen, he might be the zestiest fighter in the entire bantamweight division. It's a tie between maybe him and Sean O'Malley, but this guy has shown he's legit on the feet. He's very dangerous. What he did to Cameron Simon was absolutely brutal. A lot of people touted Simon as like one of the next up-and-comer in terms of the lighter man. But Peyton Talbot took his lunch money and said, hey, man, I'm the next up-and-comer. You ain't anything, Cameron Simon, and beat the brakes off of him. So, yeah. I think he's going to destroy Raoni Barcelos by a second round TKO. It's not even going to be close. Get this guy a step up in competition. I think he's going to be looking into the rankings in his next 1 to 2 fights. Yes, I'm glazing Peyton Talbot. I think he's really good. I've even went on record to say he's championship material in one of my recent videos. Maybe that's taking it a little bit too far, the glaze, but I think this guy can be top 7, top 5 of the bantamweight division one day. He's young, 25. And yeah, amazing finisher, amazing striker. And yeah, I think he's going to get another finish over Barcelos. Second round, that's my prediction. Let's get on to the next fight, which is Kevin Holland versus Rainer de Ridder, or as I like to call him, Reindeer de Ridder. Now let's cut the BS. We all know Reiner de Ridder's last fight. He looked absolutely goofy. This guy's one of the goofiest fighters. Drick is Duplessis 2.0. If you know, you know. But I think people are writing him off for his goofiness and like, God, dude, this guy's not going to beat Kevin Holland, man. This guy is so goofy, man. He's going to get KO'd on the feet. This guy is way too goofy. People forget, man. He dropped GM3 and then submitted him in the next round. This guy has power. He's a massive middleweight. Kevin Holland is notoriously undersized at middleweight, and there's no way I'm ever picking Kevin Holland again. I'm just not. This guy's the most inconsistent fighter in UFC history. He's 5-7 in his last 12. He does not take the sport serious. I mean, after this guy lost to Khamzat Chimaev, he was literally crying on Twitter about how he was going to retire because the fans were roasting him. Like, bro, get over yourself. Kevin Holland's a grown-ass man. Doesn't want to be disciplined and cut the weight and take his career seriously and fight at welterweight. He'd rather not cut weight and get bullied in the grappling by a bigger man in Reiner de Ridder. And I don't care how goofy Reiner de Ridder is. I'm picking him to beat Kevin Holland by decision. I want him to pick him by submission, I'm going to be honest. But I think he's going to do just what Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson did. He's going to take down Kevin Holland and just kind of bully him on the ground. Sure, Reiner de Ridder doesn't have the best striking, but he's a powerful guy. He's really good on the ground. I think Kevin Holland's good enough on the ground to not get submitted, but I can 100% see a world where Reiner de Ridder just takes him down over and over, bullies him, and wins like a 30-27 dominant decision over Kevin Holland. Because, like I said, man, Kevin Holland is the most inconsistent fighter. This guy can KO Drickus and then turn around and lose to Darren Till. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what is he doing half his career? I don't know. But, yeah, Kevin Holland's one of the most frustrating fighters to watch because it's like his career's a cope. He tries to take the path of most resistance to say, oh, you know, I lost against Wonderboy because I fought the best striker, you know. I lost against Khamzat because I took the fight on short notice and got submitted. It's like this guy's entire career is a cope, and it really irritates me. And, yeah, as you can tell, I'm not a Kevin Holland fan. This guy doesn't take his career seriously, so I'm not going to take him seriously. And I'm going to pick Reindeer to get this guy, to beat this guy by a 30-27 decision. I think it's going to be easy work for Reiner de Ridder, racking up another win and increasing his record to 19-2. And a lot of my logic around this pick, I would say, is Kevin Holland at middleweight. He's just not a very good middleweight, in my opinion. Sure, he went 5-0 in 2020 at middleweight, but that was 5 years ago, guys. It's 2025, and this guy is not taking his career serious. He's had a ton of losses since then, 7 losses since then. And, yeah, Kevin Holland's just not a middleweight. He's a welterweight that just doesn't want to cut the weight, so he's going to give up that size to Reiner de Ridder, and I could see Reiner de Ridder just easily out-grappling him, winning all 3 rounds, 30-27. Let's get on to the next fight, Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. Now, this is a tricky one because Renato Moicano just might be the hungriest fighter in the UFC right now. Is there anyone more hungry? Sure, he's self-aware to know he's not the best guy. He's even admitted, like, brother, bring back Prime Habib. Even if he's better, I will beat him because I cannot afford to lose. Moicano wants money. And Beneil Dariush is coming off of 2 brutal KOs against Charles Oliveira and against Arman Tsaryukan. It's the 4th time he's been KO'd in his career. He's been KO'd by Alexander Hernandez, Edson Barboza, Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsaryukan. Beneil Dariush notoriously has had a rough chin throughout his career. Out of his 6 losses, 4 in the UFC are by brutal KO. But it's a tricky matchup because before the 2 KO losses, Beneil Dariush was on an 8-fight win streak, talking about this guy being the next challenger for Islam. But it's not like Renato Moicano has one-shot knockout power. People like to bring up that he knocked down Cub Swanson with a stiff jab, which is true, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to chin Dariush. But my issue with this fight is that Renato Moicano might be the hungriest fighter in the entire UFC, and Beneil Dariush is talking about retirement if he loses the fight. And as you guys know, we never like a fighter talking about retirement. Anytime a fighter has 1 foot out the door, maybe he's not putting that extra 200% in training like Renato Moicano is, you know? I think Renato Moicano has hit a second stride. I think he's arguably in his prime right now at 35 years old. And we're seeing a Beneil Dariush, man, that took a long time off now. Fair enough, he should have because he lost by brutal KO against Arman. He's taken a while off. I think he hasn't fought since April. And so that's, 8-9 months? He hasn't fought since April. Brutal KO lost his last 2 fights and 1 foot out the door versus a hungry guy who's on a 3-fight win streak who absolutely destroyed BSD. But the tricky part about picking this fight, in my opinion, is the fact that Beneil Dariush has really good defensive grappling, as shown in the Gamrot fight. Gamrot had amazing scrambles with Arman and kind of went back and forth and won a decision against Arman. He probably should have lost, but he won a decision. But against Dariush, Gamrot couldn't do jack squat. Gamrot shut down his grappling and just kind of pieced him up on the feet and easily beat him. And it's like, if Dariush doesn't get chinned by Moicano, Are we looking at a fight where Moicano can't get him down and he gets pieced up on the feet? I mean, Beneil Dariush doesn't have the most insane stand-up. But with that all being said, with all that yapping that just came out of my mouth, I 100% am still going to go with Renato Moicano. Moicano wants money, baby. He's way too motivated. Beneil Dariush got one foot out the door. I don't think this guy has it anymore. They're both the same age, but Renato Moicano and Beneil Dariush are at two different stages of 35 years old. And I think Renato Moicano is the fresher and more hungry 35-year-old. So I'm going to take Moicano by 29-28 decision. Weirdly enough, I don't think he's going to finish Beneil. He's not like this insane like knockout artist. But, you know, with Beneil's chin, you never know. Imagine Moicano does KO him. Bro would gain so much aura, even though Beneil's coming off of 2 KO losses. Moicano's not known for a guy that one-punch KOs people. But, yeah, give me Renato Moicano to win this fight by 29-28 decision. I think it'll be a good scrap, but he'll pull out. And, yeah, I'm interested to see the grappling exchanges between these guys. These guys both have amazing grappling. Let's get on to the next fight on the card, which is Jiri Prochazka versus Jamahal Hill. Now, I've kind of went back and forth on my pick on this fight. You know, at one point I'm picking Jiri Prochazka, another point I'm picking Jamahal Hill. But people forget, man, Jiri Prochazka has only lost to Alex Pereira. And people like myself are writing him off saying this guy's washed. He fights with his hands down. He's going to come in there and get chinned. But you know what? I thought about it and I was like, dude, I think Jamahal Hill might be the most overrated light heavyweight. His best win is a dominant decision over a 42, nearly 43-year-old Glover Teixeira, who he couldn't even finish. And I know it's Glover, guys, but he was coming off an absolute war against Jiri. And Jamahal Hill touted as one of the most powerful strikers in the division. I know he's KO'd guys like Jimmy Crude, and he's KO'd guys like Johnny Walker, and he TKO'd Thiago Santos. But he struggled against an older Thiago Santos. And he got chinned by Pereira. He's been coping on Twitter ever since. And I don't know, man. I feel like Jamahal Hill is a bit overrated. And I'm going to pick Jiri by second round KO. I think Yuri's going to come with his samurai hair again, which he shouldn't because Pereira stole all the aura off of that. But I think Jiri Prochazka is still one of the best light heavyweights, man. People are going to write him off because of his 2 losses to Pereira. Pereira did make him look silly. He made him look like he's never trained defensive striking his entire life. I understand that, but it's Alex Pereira. Jamahal Hill is not Alex Pereira. He's coming off a loss. He hasn't fought since UFC 300. That's 9 months ago. And who knows if this guy Jamahal Hill, like, is he going to be one of those fighters that is so delusional that he maybe underestimates Jiri? Because I think all that's on Jamahal Hill's mind is rematching Pereira. So how serious is he taking Jiri Prochazka, you know? Is this guy really in training, like training? We all know Jamahal Hill has a beer belly. And even, I mean, I know he fights, all of his fights with a beer belly, but this guy's never in great shape. I don't feel like he takes his career as serious as he should. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just hating, but all the coping and just ridiculous trash talk Jamahal Hill has done on Twitter. And I just feel like Jiri, if you look at his fights, this guy's taking pictures in front of waterfalls, and this guy's absolutely shredded. And I think there's been training clips of Jiri fighting with his hands up. What if we see a calculated Jiri just chin Jamahal? And I still think Yuri's going to have a great chin. I don't think the 2 Pereira KOs are going to completely shot his chin. This guy's been chinned before in his career against King Mo way back in the day. And yeah, man, anybody can get chinned at light heavyweight. These guys hit hard, but I think that Jiri Prochazka is going to knock out Jamahal Hill in the second round, and I'm going to love to see it. What is Jamahal Hill going to say this time on Twitter whenever he gets KO'd? Is he going to say, oh yeah, when I see you in the cage, I will knock you out, and start offering stacks of money for fans to go fight him at his gym, which is just pure delusion? Don't get me wrong. I have enjoyed every bit of Jamahal Hill's delusion. Just the amount of coping he's done on Twitter has been infinite levels of entertainment for myself and other people. I've made a video on how Jamahal Hill might be the most delusional fighter in the UFC. Whenever he did at UFC, whenever Pereira knocked out Khalil Roundtree, Jamahal Hill was in the crowd pretending like he was yawning, and Pereira funny said that he must have just woke up from UFC 300. Good line by Pereira, but listen, like I said, I'll leave the prediction at this. Jamahal Hill, in my opinion, is one of the most overrated light heavyweights, and I think Jiri Prochazka is going to chin him. And yeah, we're going to see some more coping on Twitter, guys. Let's get on to that co-main event. Ooh, I've been waiting for this one, man. I've been waiting for this one. If you guys have been in my stream, you know how I feel about Merab Dvalishvili. I feel like he is not very good. Like, I'm just going to keep it 100. People are going to say, dude, he's not very good, but he made it all the way to the championship. Yeah, that's right. You heard it. He's not very good. And there just hasn't been a fighter that has been good enough to expose his style. I mean, Jose Aldo showed that he struggles with guys holding him against the fence. That's how he beat Jose Aldo. Henry Cejudo was 37 years old. He was never going to come back in peak form. Petr Yan was a legit win. He did destroy Petr Yan. But as we know, man, Petr Yan's a data downloader. You cannot be a data downloader against Merab. He's just going to spam takedowns, and you're never going to get that rhythm going. And who else did he beat? He beat Sean O'Malley, but Sean O'Malley pooped the bed in that fight. He looked absolutely terrible, and that fight was closer than people give it credit for. My point is, I don't rate Merab. I just don't. I think his striking sucks. And go ahead and go in the comments and say his striking sucks, but he outstruck O'Malley. Yeah, that's because he was spamming takedowns and throwing little pitter-pat knees and shots on the feet. He's he's literally the least dangerous fighter at all of bantamweight. He has terrible striking. He has no knockout ability. He has no submission ability. When have you seen Merab go for a sub? You're going to say he went for the guillotine against O'Malley? No, that wasn't even close. This guy, just like Bilal, has no desire to finish a fight. This guy's the decision king. He's literally the biggest decision merchant in the entire UFC. 11 fight win streak, 10 decisions. His only finish coming against Marlon Moraes, who almost finished him in that fight. And it's not even that I want Umar to win. I want Merab to lose because his style pisses me off so much. This guy has literally built a career, in my opinion, off of being on EPO. And go ahead and run to the comments and say, oh, dude, everybody's on steroids. And that might be true. But this guy has openly admitted by accident in a press conference that he was on EPO. Look it up. If you know, you know. And I just don't rate Merab, man. I don't think he's very good. There just hasn't been a guy that can expose him. And if you look at Umar, if you look at the fifth round against O'Malley, Merab, right? He's shown that he struggles against teep kicks. He struggles against kicks. And what do you know? Umar Nurmagomedov happens to be one of the best kickers in the entire division. He's bigger than Merab. He's taller than Merab. I think he's stronger than Merab. And Merab's getting older. He's going to be 34 years old. He's not a young gun. Umar's in his absolute prime at 28. And Merab didn't want to take this fight. He hasn't been sounding confident his entire training camp. Look at the build up to this fight. All that can come out of his mouth is how Umar doesn't deserve the shot, which is fine. You can say that. But he's the only guy left. He's already 50-45 Petr Yan. Davison Figueiredo lost. Who are you going to give O'Malley a rematch who's coming off a loss? Umar is the fight that makes sense right now. And Merab is sporting a leg injury with some stitches he showed off on Twitter, I believe. And Umar apparently suffering an injury as well. So both of them are going to be coming into this fight compromised. But I think Umar is just going to be the faster fighter. And Merab's not just going to be able to hold Umar against the fence and spam takedowns. Maybe Merab will get him down. But Umar is going to get up to the feet. He's going to scramble. And he's going to get back to the center of the octagon and start piecing Merab up on the feet. And I think Umar is going to honestly win a comfortable 49-46 decision. That's how I see this fight going. I just don't see a world where Merab just spams takedowns against Umar and smokes him the entire fight. Umar trains with the best guys in the world. He trains with Islam. He's under Habib's camp. This guy, literally, his bread and butter is fighting in the mountains and having good takedown defense and having good striking and training all day long. It's all he does, while Merab just copes and gets so angry with the thought of Umar. And we've never seen Merab angry like this. Like, he's fought Sean O'Malley, and you know, the trash talk was kind of lightheaded. It was back and forth. But Merab genuinely seems angry anytime Umar is brought up. So you got to question the mental side of things. Is Umar in Merab's head? Is Merab going to fight emotional? I don't know. I think Merab's a level-headed guy in the octagon, at least, not outside the octagon. He crashes out anytime a fan comes for him. But with all that yapping being said, I do think that Umar Nurmagomedov is going to thwart the takedowns of Merab for the most part. Merab will be able to get takedowns, but I think overall Umar is going to get back to his feet, and he's just going to piece up Merab. He's going to take a page out of O'Malley's book in that fifth round, and he's just going to throw kicks, and Merab struggles with kicks. He does not defend well against teep kicks, and Umar just has great kicks, and I think he has way better striking than Merab. I think he's faster, he's younger, he's more hungry. So I think Umar Nurmagomedov will beat Merab Dvalishvili by a 49-46 decision, 4-1. Merab will sneak around in there somewhere, and I think this is the first fight where Merab's cardio is not going to do the job for him. He's literally made it to the belt off of just cardio. And if you think that's not true, go in the comments and tell me what else Merab does that is good outside of cardio. You're going to say his takedowns are sloppy. You're going to say his striking, it sucks. You're going to say his submission ability, he has no submissions in the UFC. You're going to say his striking ability, and it's like, this guy's terrible, man. And we cannot have a guy like Merab as champion. He's a terrible representation for champion. Umar would be better. It's not even like I love Umar. I just cannot stand Merab's fighting style. These guys that fight like him are stallers. Him and Bilal, they stall the fight. These guys have no intention of finishing the fight. And yes, call me a casual, call me a hater. I cannot stand that type of fighting style. Yeah, let's get on to the main event, which is Arman Tsaryukan versus Islam Makhachev, the rematch. Now, these guys originally fought back in 2019. It was Arman Tsaryukan's debut, and Islam defeated Arman Tsaryukan. And yeah, Arman Tsaryukan ever since then has looked better than ever. He did go on to drop a decision to Gamrot in one fight, but let's be real. Everybody thought he won that fight. It was an amazing back and forth. But with that being said, not to do MMA math, but look at what happened to Arman against Gamrot. I'm sorry, bro, but if Islam fought Gamrot, he would piece up and destroy Gamrot. Gamrot just lost to Dan Hooker, and Arman Tsaryukan dropped a decision to Gamrot. Listen, MMA math doesn't work. I get it, but when you look at these two guys' skill sets, I'm just going to say it how it is. I think Islam is just a better version of Arman Tsaryukan. Maybe the only thing that Arman has better, in my opinion, is pure wrestling and maybe kicks. But outside of that, Islam has better boxing. I think he has better kickboxing. I think he has better submissions. Arman hasn't submitted anybody in the UFC. I think Islam has more power. I think Islam has more he has more 5-round experience. He's fought the toughest of the tough guys. He's fought the Dustin Poiriers, Alexander Volkanovskis. People give Makhachev a lot of crap for that Dustin Poirier fight, but people forget, man, he had staph infection going into that fight. I know it's an excuse, and every single fighter goes into fights injured. That's fine. And we've seen the training of Arman Tsaryukan. He's absolutely shredded out of his mind for this fight. But with that being said, I still think Islam is just going to show levels against Arman. I think he can threaten head kicks against Arman. He's a shorter opponent. And as shown against Volk, he can KO people with a head kick. Arman's 5'7". So Arman always has to be wary of Islam's head kicks. I think people are trying to play up Arman Tsaryukan's power a little more than what it should be. He KO'd Beneil Dariush, bro. Let's not act like Beneil Dariush hasn't been brutally KO'd 3 times before that. And Beneil Dariush was coming off that KO loss to Charles Oliveira where he didn't take enough time off. So I don't rate that Arman Tsaryukan KO over Dariush that high. He also got dropped by Joaquin Silva. I understand that he did come back to TKO Joaquin Silva, but he did get dropped, which isn't a great look. And he had the really close fight with Gamrot, who went on to drop decisions against Dan Hooker, which isn't a great look. And then he almost got submitted by Charles. And I'm sorry, listen, if Islam locks up the same submission Charles locks up, Islam is finishing that submission. I love Charles, and maybe pure jiu-jitsu, he's better than Islam, but Islam has the tightest squeeze out of anybody at lightweight. If he gets Arman Tsaryukan in a submission, he's 100% going to finish that submission. He's not just going to sit there. He's going to squeeze till his back muscles pop out. We've seen it against Drew Dober. We've seen it against Charles Oliveira or against Dustin Poirier. Whenever he gets that squeeze on your neck, you're done. He's not letting go. He's going to squeeze like his life depends on it. And yeah, man, I just don't think Arman Tsaryukan, just pure fighting style, offers enough threat to beat a guy like Islam. Like I said, I think people are overrating his power just because he KO'd Beneil Dariush. But before that, it's like, who's Arman Tsaryukan really KO'd? Sure, he beat the crap out of Joe Alvarez, but that was ground and pound. Yes, that's another thing I like to say. I'll give Arman Tsaryukan the edge in ground and pound. He is one of the best ground and pounders at lightweight, but Islam just has more ways to win, man. He can knock out Arman on the feet. He can outstrike him on the feet. He can take Arman down and submit him. He out-grappled Arman in their first fight. Arman had 1 takedown, and Islam had like 6. And I think Islam even went into that fight sick as well. So, yeah, a lot of coping, a lot of excuses for myself on why I think Islam Makhachev is going to beat Arman. But at the end of the day, I just think Islam is a cut above Arman. I think he's a better version of Arman Tsaryukan, and I don't think any version of Arman Tsaryukan beats Islam. Islam's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world for a reason. He's in his absolute prime at 33 years old. Statistically speaking, that is when most UFC fighters hit their prime, 33. He's in his prime. I think he's going to have learned a lot from that Dustin Poirier fight. And yeah, man, Islam wins 49-46. Umar and Islam both win 49-46. I think Arman might sneak around in there, but I just think Islam is more capable of doing damage in a fight, and I can just see him beating Arman to the punch in most of the rounds, winning 4 rounds to 1, retaining his belt. And, you know, if Islam wins, it's a tricky one because, like, does he go up and fight Bilal? He's not sure. Does he stay down? I think an intriguing matchup for Islam, honestly, if Charles Oliveira were to go out there and get another win. Let's say let's say Arman loses, right? And maybe you do a Charles and Arman rematch, and Makhachev takes off to Abu Dhabi. You could do the winner of the rematch in Abu Dhabi, depending on how much damage Arman takes. But either way, I'm super excited for this card. This should have been the first card of the year, not UFC Vegas 101. That's an absolute embarrassment. I'm looking forward to this card. This is going to be one of the best cards of the year, stacked from top to bottom. I'm so hyped for it. 1 week away, boys. Let me know what you think of my picks in the comments. I was a little harsh on some of these guys, but I'm sick of Merab as champ. We cannot have a guy that fights like an absolute goblin moron as champ. I'm tired of seeing it. I hope Umar sends him to the Shadow Realm. I hope Islam Makhachev submits Arman Tsaryukan. And yeah, man, Going to be an amazing card. I will be doing a fight companion, so look out for that. If you enjoyed this prediction breakdown, I tried to make it a little bit longer for you guys. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and drop a like on the video. Drop a subscription on the channel if you're new. I always appreciate you guys watching. I will be dropping a stream for you guys later. I'm out, guys, and peace.